Welcome to BAM, Badass Moms with Lori and Jenny. We are moms on a mission to share women's stories about life, fitness, aging, relationships, travel, and much more. Hello, friends, and thanks for listening. I just wanted to take a second to give you a quick reminder about subscribing to the show. If you have not already, just take a moment and do so. This will make sure that you never miss a daily bite or an upcoming episode. And in addition to that, if you have a few extra moments and like to drop us a review, we'd really appreciate it. And there's also a sponsor of the show located at the bottom of all of our episodes. Once again, thank you for listening. Thank you for being badass. Hello, listeners, and welcome to BAM Badass Moms with Lori and Jenny. We are so lucky today to have a phenomenal guest on our show. Not only is she a mom, she's a grandma. CJ Scarlet, we are so excited to have her today. She's a danger expert, a victim advocate, a crime survivor herself. Her journey is pretty fucking crazy, to be honest. And we feel very blessed that she was willing to take the time and share it with us today. CJ, thanks for finding the time in your busy schedule to have a chat with Jenny and I, and we are really looking forward to chatting more with you today. So welcome to the show.
I have been looking forward to this for months. Thank you guys for having me today. I really appreciate it.
I wanted to just kind of give a shout out to our mutual friend, Nicoa. And that's how we got connected with CJ, is because Nicoa, who you probably heard on our show, I think she was our second guest. And she's been a friend of mine for years and worked with CJ and said, you have to interview her. So we've been super excited to sit down with you. So thank you.
Thank you.
It's so wonderful when badass women, badass moms, we all find each other and we're able to connect and grow and share the relationships we have with other women. I think it's so phenomenal. CJ, like I said, you have so many paths that have led you to your current now. Why don't you just give a quick summary so our listeners can kind of just get to know you a little bit and then we can kind of go down those different journeys.
Sure. I am a danger expert and the author of books that help parents empower their kids to protect and defend themselves from predators. I write these books because I myself am a survivor of childhood abuse and 2 teen sexual assaults. And at the age of 19, when I was raped twice, I was also nearly lured into a sex trafficking ring, narrowly escaped. So I have all that in my background, which led me to develop PTSD that I have been grappling with now for decades and decades and decades. So I don't want anyone else to have to go through what I go through. And I'm tired of hearing people say someone should do something about child abuse. I figure I'm someone, so I'm doing something about it. I'm an advocate for 33 years from the time I started therapy in 1990 and started working with the local rape crisis center and got on their board of directors. I run a child advocacy center for abused children. I was the director of victims issues at the North Carolina Attorney General's office. And I helped thousands of victims in the process of doing this important work, but it got really frustrating to be dealing with violence against children after it happened. So I decided to do something to keep it from happening at all. And I started developing technologies that were going to help women and children to be safe from predators. And then in 2015, I had my grand twins. I didn't have my grand twins. My daughter had my grand twins. I totally would just get over the parent part to get the grandkids.
That would be a whole other show. That would be a whole other show for sure.
Yeah.
But I have a master's degree in human violence. And so I know all the terrible things that can happen to people. So I started having nightmares after they were born about all these awful things happening to my grandbabies. And I just couldn't live with it. And I was trained as a photojournalist in the Marine Corps. And so I decided that I was going to write a book for my son and daughter-in-law that would teach them what their kids need to know to take care of themselves, because the parents can't be around all the time.
Yeah.
And then, of course, this book would have a greater audience for parents everywhere. I wrote the first 2 books for parents of kids 0 to 9. They're Badass Parenting and Heroic Parenting. They're the same book, but Heroic Parenting is PG rated and Badass Parenting is not PG rated. There's a totally unnecessary amount of profanity in Badass Parenting.
Jenny and I definitely want the one that's not PG rated.
Exactly.
Okay, we definitely would want that one.
My third book for parents of kids 10 to 18 is coming out in January. It's called Raising Badass Kids, A Savvy Parent's Guide to Predator-Proofing Tweens and Teens. And in these books, I talk about who the predators are, what the dangers are, ranging from online dangers, bullying and cyberbullying, sexual molestation and assault, kidnapping, sex trafficking. And in this latest book, I have a chapter on sexual consent, which is the most important thing I think I've ever written.
Yeah.
Because
So
it could
this is
keep
all
so many kids from being abused.
I mean, obviously, this is all some really heavy shit. So when you sit down to write these books, how does it how hard is it for you to obviously having a history of being abused in sexual assault? How is it to kind of, are you feeling like you're reliving some of those experiences again through the writing, or how do you do that? I'm just curious.
Fortunately, I've done enough therapy that I don't get triggered by my own word.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as a writer, I'm a nonfiction writer. I'm a little bit removed from it because I'm in the writing process.
Sure.
But I also snark it up. I have a great sense of humor. I'm not a particularly funny
Yeah.
person on camera or in person, but I have a great sense of humor. But when I write, I can be really funny sometimes. And so I lighten up the mood with some of these, kind of gallows humor in my books. And, I call predators douche canoes and
Oh my God, I love it. Well, that makes it like relatable, and it makes people want to read the content, right?
It's not
like,
just so bland, right?
text-
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because badass parenting, heroic parenting sell 50-50. Half the people want it with the profanity and half the people want a clean version. So what I'm working on now is an online course that is based on my books. I'm so excited about it. It's probably going to be released in March. And it's going to teach all the content that I have in my books about how to talk to your kids, what to say, things like that. But because parents tell me their number one problem is that they don't know what to say about body safety or how to say it, I'm actually going to do videos where I talk directly to the kids.
oh, wow.
That's have those conversations with them that they can watch together with their parents and then talk about it.
That's incredible. Is that something that kind of came to you, obviously, with the digital world being, and so ingrained in our day to day? Is that kind of just something that you had gotten feedback from people, or is that just something you knew people would help them along?
I wish I'd known about doing an online course or had thought about that several years ago, because I might have skipped over the books and gone right to the online course because it will reach such a broader audience. People, parents especially, don't have time to read a book. They want to, but they don't have time. And so they digest things in small chunks. And so having a bunch of 5 to 8 minute videos that they can turn to on bullying or on whatever topic interests them, I think we'll get a lot more eyeballs. And my goal, my entire mission in life is to educate as many parents as possible about how to teach their kids to protect themselves when the parents aren't around. I can't think of anything more important to do with my life. I will do this till the day I drop dead because I will never retire. I will not stop advocating for kids because child abuse is rampant. It is rampant. Yeah. And even though one-on-one crimes have gone down and the world is safer than it was when I was a child in the 60s in terms of one-on-one crimes, it's going up online in a seriously bad way, 100,000-fold online with the sextortion and the grooming and the sex trafficking and all the things that are going on online. It's a very, very dangerous place. So I will rest until I've done everything I know I can do to let people know about that and what to do, how to protect their kids.
I'm glad you said something about like the videos and stuff like that, because anytime I tell my kids to read a book, they're they don't want to read it. So I remember reading, and I think we might have talked about this, but it's called The Gift of Fear. And there's one that's The Gift of Fear for Kids. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you guys have to read this book because I read The Gift of Fear. So, I mean, not that I know everything to do, but I wanted them to like listen to their intuition and get some of these tips and things like that. And of course, both of them, the second you say, you need to read this book, they're like, I'm not doing that. So like well, now they're 21 and 18, but it's a whole different set of concerns, right? Like, Lori has a 6-year-old, so that's one set of concerns. And then you get into the teenage years and you were talking about like consensual relationships, like college, that kind of thing. And like having the freedom to say no and knowing that you own your body and you make your own choices. Like, I think that's so incredibly important for this age.
That's exactly what I'm going to be talking about. This is what your intuition is, and this is how it talks to you, and this is why you need to trust it, and this is what boundaries are, and this is how you decide what your boundaries are and determine who you can trust and who you can't trust. And this is how you take action to defend those boundaries when they're being violated. And learning to say no. My God, if I knew that I could say no to other kids and adults, that I didn't owe it to them to do whatever they wanted, so much of what happened to me would never have occurred. Never. Yeah. Just one simple word, no.
Right. I do think, just empowering, girls especially, and obviously everyone, that word is so meaningful and not to be scared to use it.
So with writing your books, you said your latest book is coming out in the next month
January.
or January. Okay, perfect. In the process, I'm very intrigued because back in my former life, I actually got a degree in journalism and didn't use it very much.
Oh, right.
But, I'm curious the process too of, people that are interested and have the desire to really, maybe they're an expert themselves or writing books in general. Like, how long does it really take to get this information out and published and get it out to the world?
Once I started writing, I'm the kind of writer that can write anytime. I don't get writer's block. I can write 3:00 in the morning, or I just write when I write, and it just flows out of me. So the larger portion of time came from the research that I did, because I knew I had a head full of knowledge, but I needed to become more knowledgeable about bullying, for example, and what the bullies are and how they behave and things like that. One interesting thing is that I got a lot of requests from parents to add a chapter on how to empower children with disabilities, and I knew nothing about that. So I kind of blew the bucket. I said, well, I don't have any expertise in that area, so I'm not going to try. But then I kept getting request after request. And finally, after like the sixth request, I started researching it and discovered that these kids, almost 100% of them are sexually abused at some point by a caregiver.
Oh my gosh.
And when they're abused, it's dozens of times over the course of their life. And I thought, I have got to write about this. So I do a lot of research to have enough information to put into the book. And I know that I probably made mistakes somewhere, and I asked the reader in the book to forgive me if I make mistakes. But it took a lot of research to go through all the, especially the part that's going to take a lot of research for me on the online course is the part about what to say to kids. I mean, having the actual conversation with the kids. So I'm probably going to work with a child psychologist on that. So that I can come up with the right phrasing to be able to have a conversation with these kids. I want to talk to them like I would talk to my own grandkids.
And so let's talk about that. So grandkids, you are the badass grandma, which means that you have children and obviously grandchildren. So give us like a little bit of insight into your motherhood and raising your children and being a grandma.
Oh, it's the greatest joy of my life. I got to tell you, I don't know what it is. I mean, I know it's probably most of it's instinctual. We protect our own young and things like that. But I have two boys who are now 36 and 39. My 39-year-old's freaking out about turning 40.
It's okay. He'll get through it.
Exactly.
I'm freaking out about it over myself. But he's the one who has 3 grandkids. I have grand twins, boy-girl grand twins who are 8, and a 6-year-old granddaughter. And they live 11 miles from me, so I see them all the time. We have Sunday dinner every week, and I'm usually over at their house once or twice additionally during the week. I was a better mom because I was a working mom. Mm-hmm. Just like I know I couldn't be a teacher or daycare worker because I just don't have the patience. I knew that working made me a better mom. If I had to stay home with my kids, I'd stayed home with my 2-year-old for a year when I was pregnant with my second son, and we were up in Syracuse. And I swear to God, it snowed the entire time we were there. The entire year it snowed. I had no vehicle, and I was stuck at home with the 2-year-old and Mr. Rogers and He-Man. And
I do remember He-Man. I will say that was one of my favorites. I look back and I have no idea why, but
so much Sesame Street.
I share your. I couldn't stay home either. Even during maternity leave, I remember we packed our days. I was like, I can't sit home. You know. It's not how
I was going bonkers. But grandkids are a totally different game. It's like love and arthritis. You can't understand it till you experience it. And so I hope you guys get to experience it, because when you're a parent, you're so busy you're getting their homework, getting on them about their homework, you're fixing their breakfast or their lunch or their dinner, you're doing their laundry, you're saying, get ready to do this, get ready to do this, taking them to dance and basketball and everything. Yeah. As a grandparent, you are being with them. You have the wisdom and the patience and the time to be with them and see them as their own unique little children, their own unique little people, and not as an extension of you.
You get to step out of the way and let mom and dad deal with the tough stuff. And as a grandparent, you get to really just enjoy. And I think
the love is so pure with those kids. I mean, my ego is not dependent on their behavior. You know what I'm saying? They're not a reflection of me like my kids were.
Yeah.
Or the way I perceive my kids were. They're just their own unique little people.
Yeah, I can see how, as you know, just like being a parent and having a young one right now, like there are those moments where you just can't step away. I mean, you do, right, to take a break, but you know, you're always on 100% of the time,
Yeah.
and you're not there. And as grandparents, you're on, but it's like you said, you get to be with them and just enjoy. And it sounds like a really amazing place to be. What's that, Jenny?
The whole extension, like the whole extension of you thing is a huge challenge with your own kids, right? Like, I mean, I fight that all the time. Like their choices are their own choices, especially now they're 21 and 18. Like this doesn't have anything to do with me, but you still get so wrapped up around it, you know? Yeah. And so that's been a whole learning curve to kind of let go and let them make if you want to get a tattoo, it's your body. It's not my body. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean.
But as your mom, I'm always going to have an opinion about you doing that.
Right. I know. Exactly. Like,
just don't get it on your head or your face. Okay.
I know. Please don't do that. It's funny how your standards lower. Well, just don't do blank. And then they do blank. And you're like, well, then just don't do blank. Yeah.
No, grandkids and kids are totally different things. I don't know how to explain it. My 6-year-old granddaughter, we have a competition. She says, I love you. And I said, or she'll say, I love you, Grandma. I said, I love you better. And she'll say, I love you best. And we go back and forth. And one day she looked at me and she thought real hard and she said, because we were doing the I love you to infinity times 10 thing.
Oh,
and she looked at me and she said, I love you to heaven.
Oh,
I can't beat that.
So cute.
I think that's such a good dialogue to have too. And my son and I do something similar sometimes. I'll say, I love you more than all the snow outside, or I love you more than all the sand on the beach, you know, like, and it's just this fun little game that we play. But I think it really does it builds that relationship and you know, it's
6 is a great age to be teaching about some of these body safety things too, because they can understand, you know, you don't want to scare the hell out of them. You don't want to say, you know, you're going to be blatant about what sexual abuse is and all that other stuff, but teaching them about boundaries and body safety and about body autonomy. And of course, my 4-year-old granddaughter was 4 at the time. We taught her about body autonomy and she wouldn't go to bed one night. And we were like, get to bed. And she's like, it's my body. It's my choice. And I don't
yeah. I've heard that. They do teach that in school. I've heard that. Wyatt tells me that too. He's like, but it's my body. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's my sanity. Go to bed. Like,
no, well, you can take your body in your bedroom and do what you want with it. Right. I'm going to bed and you're not going to be here.
Right.
No, they like to turn it around on you.
Yeah. I do have a funny story, you know, and it's interesting because, you know, although I have a stepson, you know, having Wyatt, you know, being 6 and that body awareness, they're definitely at the age where, you know, maybe it was a couple of years ago, you know, because I always want to go to the bathroom with you. And my son was like, Mommy, why do you pee out of your butt? and you know, for me, I was like, because, you know, he would stand up and I was like, oh, you know, but like starting to talk about those conversations and what, you know, like the different parts and this and that, you know, and it starts to develop and, you know, still getting the questions of like, so what really is the difference between boys and girls? Like, you know, like they still they're trying to figure it all out and how to tactfully do that without, you know, traumatizing them of, you know, being scared about, you know, CJ, you probably have more insight to that, but just really, you know, making them aware of themselves and how to say no and what's different between different sexes. And, you know,
I addressed it a little bit in the book when it comes to child's play and the difference between child's play and what is determined abuse and things like that. I had another story for you. I decided I was going to teach my grandchildren the proper terminology for their body parts because I didn't know. I mean, when I did research on this part of the book, I was like, I didn't know I had all those parts. Wow. It was like a lady garden. You know? And so I taught my 6-year-old granddaughter from the time she was teeny tot. I taught her that it wasn't her vagina she was wiping; it was her vulva.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And so she will tell anybody in the whole wide world that it's a vulva. Oh my God, what have I done?
And the other kids are like, "What are you talking about?"
She knows more than most women out there.
Telling their parents.
Yeah, she knows more than most women out there. There's all kinds of body parts in there that are just so amazing. But 6 is the age where they start getting really curious about that stuff. And
And it's how do you tactfully talk about it without, having your child go to school and, whip out his penis and share it with everyone, How do you keep that to yourself?
What's been the difference between, so you had sons and now you have granddaughters. What's been the difference between the boys and the girls?
Besides the fact that I get to buy all the tutus I want now.
Yeah.
I have one girl, my 8-year-old granddaughter is very girly and the 6-year-old's more tomboy. But the difference is that my grandson is, oh my God, he's hysterically funny. Such a funny kid. He acts like a boy. My son and daughter-in-law worked really hard to not put gender roles on them, but he won't do the dishes, he won't cook, and the girls are totally into all the girly stuff.
Sounds like a typical boy right there.
Yeah. But having girls is magical because their sweetness is just, oh my God, it's so yummy. It's so
genuine, right? It's really genuine.
Yes, it is. And I get to buy all the I wanted to buy for, that I didn't get to buy for my boys.
Well, yeah. When I had my second, and I was never a super pink person, didn't love pink and was not a super girly girl. But when I had my second daughter, I can still picture myself in the basement by the laundry machine. And I'm on the phone with my mom and she said, how are things going? And I looked at her, I looked down on the floor and I was like, I have so much laundry and it's so pink. There was just pink everywhere. And so that was it's so funny, the little things that you remember,
and glitter.
Oh, glitter. Have you heard
glitter on them? We had these Costco would sell these princess dresses in this trunk. And you literally had to shake them out first because they had so much glitter. But I swear the kids had glitter permanently affixed to them until they were in their teen years.
We don't allow glitter in our house anymore. Glitter is
hello. I know. That you can make a glitter jar where if the kid gets upset, you shake it up and then you wait till it settles and it calms him down. Well, he actually dropped that from the top of the stairs to the bottom and it got glitter all over the stairs. It looks like a stripper lives in my son's house.
Oh my gosh. Oh, it's
everywhere.
It is,
you can't ever get rid of glitter. Never.
It's tough. We play this joke on my husband, because we don't allow glitter in our house, but every once in a while for a birthday card or something, we'll make sure it has glitter all over it. Happy birthday. CJ, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I have to ask, the evolution of just seeing the shift in technology and how that's affected sexual predators and, how kids have to protect themselves and how parents have to protect their kids. I mean, when we were little, we didn't have to worry about the internet or people grooming our children through, Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and all that kind of stuff. So how has that shifted and how have you kept up on all that stuff?
I'll tell you what, the shift is our kids, my grandkids and your little kids are digital natives. They've grown up in this fish in water. They don't even know what the water is. They're just so immersed in technology and in the internet. And they don't know the difference between that and real life sometimes. It's very difficult to discern what's real life. We're digital immigrants by comparison. And the online world, people who would never say boo to a goose in real life will become absolute dicks online. Total trolls.
Yeah.
Kids and adults alike will say things that are so horrific to other people and about other people that it's just amazes me the cyberbullying that goes on that drives kids to commit suicide. Can become so brutal. In the olden days when I was a kid, if the worst you had to worry about first of all was not a school shooting, but a fist fight behind the gym after school.
Totally.
But if bullies would do their thing, but then it was over. Mm-hmm. Now, especially with relational bullying, with the girls who are so good at the relational bullying, which means that it's not physical bullying or intimidation, it's done through psychological means. You get on the wrong side of them and they're going to go online and they can turn the entire school against a kid, literally the entire school. Or, kids who are not wise, just like adults are not wise, and send a compromising photo of themselves to a boyfriend.
Yep.
The boyfriend shares it with his friend because he wants to prove that he's getting it on with his girlfriend.
Right.
And then they break up, and God only knows what happens then. And it's online forever. I thank God every day they didn't have Girls Gone Wild or Facebook when I was a teenager.
Oh my gosh, right.
The internet.
I think Jenny and I have talked about that, like how, our past is in a lot of ways in your past. I mean, obviously, it stays with you, but we don't have that like Instagram photo or those Facebook like the stupid shit that we all do that we're just kind of glad that's maybe only up here in our memories that, a few people may have with them. But yeah, it's just a different world and it is so scary.
It is. Well, I've just become a brand ambassador for bark.us. Bark is the world's premier parental monitoring company. And they have an app and a smartphone that will actually, they do so much to protect kids because it covers over 30 social media apps and your online kids conversation. You don't have to spy on your kid. You don't have to go through their phone every day and look and see what they're talking about, which is very intrusive. Bark will just alert you if there's concerning behavior, if they're talking about suicidal ideation or cyberbullying.
Like words? Does it like catch
words?
Okay.
It has algorithms that connect words and identify predators and it will notify you so you can take action. It'll even give you an email that says, here's, what you can do. I mean, it's a phenomenal technology.
I actually signed up for that several years ago. I think it was probably brand new. And I mean, my kids were older, but still high school is a breeding ground for that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I did sign up for that several years ago and then fairly recently let it lapse,
Because they're out of your house, yeah.
Yeah,
but the phone is really exciting because if you can turn off the features according to your kid's behavior. If they're irresponsible and send a text they shouldn't send or send a nude selfie or something, you can turn off the camera, you can turn off the texting, you can make it into a brick that will only call 911 or you. To your kids.
Wow,
can you just put it on their phone? So like I said, I do have a 15-year-old stepson and that's very interesting to me because it's like, you want to make sure they're being safe, but you also want to not be so intrusive on, checking their devices.
Kids are sneaky as shit. They have they have a whole lexicon, the way they talk about things and the acronyms and stuff like that I don't know. I went on Urban Dictionary at some point to look up some of these acronyms. I thought I was going to throw up. Oh my God. Urban Dictionary is just unbelievable. It's funny, but it's unbelievable. But
if they have multiple accounts, like if they have their, I don't know what they
their account that they know mom and dad might look at versus their
exactly. And the Bark phone can detect stuff like that. I mean, you can limit. It has a lot of permissions that you can grant or take away or do it. I mean, I would really look into it.
Very interesting. Yeah. No, I think that's
when I like.
I have an affiliate link you can use to get a discount.
Okay, perfect. We'll make sure to put that.
We'll put that in there. Yeah. No, I think it's that fine line, right? Like you want to give them the privacy and you want to give them autonomy, but it's terrifying.
It is terrifying.
And even at 18, if you see that catfish stuff. And actually, we had a friend over for dinner the other night, and this is kind of crazy, but his the guy he works with. He saw somebody sent him a TikTok video. The guy ended up getting fired from his job. And there was a blast that went out to the entire company that this guy was fired from his job, that he wasn't going to be back or whatever. And my friend was like, what the heck happened? And somebody sent him a TikTok video. And the guy had been like catfishing young girls online. And he got caught. And I mean, the beauty of it is they caught him fast, right? Yeah. Because there's people that are savvy out there, but it's a numbers game, right? He can target all these girls very quickly. And if a couple of them are like, yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. You will find, and I talk a lot in the books and I will in the online course about what makes kids vulnerable. It's never the kid's fault, but there are things that make kids vulnerable if they're eager for affection or attention, like I was desperate for attention and affection. If they come from a poorer home, if they don't have, if the predator can offer them access to things they want, like a phone or money or things like that. Kids. Yeah. And just when you think you got your kids trained to not talk to strangers, guess what? It's not strangers who are the problem. Strangers are responsible for like 7% of the crimes against kids. It's 93% of the time it's people they know.
Look at all the news, right? I mean, we see it every day. Like, I mean, unfortunately, like in the school district or coaches or, it's these people that the kids had built trust in.
Yes.
Right? And then that have then obviously taken advantage of their roles.
Mm-hmm.
I have a funny story to share, and my daughter would be horrified, but she worked in retail, and she's at work one day, and the retail shop allowed dogs, and we're huge dog fans. And so, you see all that stuff on 2020, like, your kid says, you said you've told your kid not to go get candy out of a van,
Mm-hmm.
and they swear they're not going to do it. And then they show the kids doing it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they show them like, oh, I need help finding my puppy. And the kids are like, I'll help you, whatever.
Right.
And, so my daughter, again, she was 17 at the time. She works with other kids that are around the same age. And this woman comes in, and when my daughter comes home from work, I would say, like, hey, did you see any dogs today? And she's like, oh, well, today this lady came in and she was buying a little dog outfit for her dog. And so we said, oh, do you have a dog? And she's like, yeah, it's in the car. Do you want to come see it? Not joking. 5 of them, 5 of these kids came out to see the freaking dog. And my husband and I, our jaws dropped, and we were like, are you kidding me right now? Like, you never ever do that. And she's like, there are 5 of us. They can't do anything. I'm like, have you heard of child trafficking?
Yes.
Like, one swoop into a man.
One gun, handgun. Pointed out, you got 5 kids in one thing.
Oh my God.
I mean, they were lucky it was truly a puppy. And well, first of all, that woman should never, like, you never say, hey kids, come see my, but I'm like, oh my God. So you think you do the right things, and then they surprise you.
But for her in that moment, she wanted to go see a pup. Like, she just wasn't, it wasn't like somebody saying, come out to my car. I want to, like, it was just, I want to see a puppy. Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. And how do you teach your kids that? How do you impress upon your children? And one of the things, it's hard as a parent because you're never a prophet in your own country. Your kids, especially when they get older, they don't listen to you like they would listen to someone else. So I'm hoping that by talking to the kids myself, they'll listen to me when they may not listen to mom and dad about the same things.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I hope so.
So CJ, so, let's change it to a lighter topic for a few minutes. So one of the things I loved seeing on your bio was you were voted one of the happiest 100th people on the planet. I want to hear more about that. I love that because I was like, oh my gosh, like I love happiness, and
especially with the work you do.
Yes,
the stuff you see.
Like, oh my gosh. So tell me more. I love that.
Well, to tell you how I got there, I got to tell you a little story. The trauma I had endured from the sexual abuse and the rapes caused me to develop very severe PTSD, and the PTSD later, when I was about 29, 30, caused me to develop 2 life-threatening autoimmune conditions, lupus and scleroderma. And I was disabled on and off over the years, but by 1998, I became completely disabled again. I was on massive doses of prednisone, steroids, high-powered steroids, and I gained 100 pounds. I couldn't get up and down the stairs on my hands and knees. I couldn't have lifted a glass. I couldn't turn a doorknob. I couldn't hold a hairbrush because my joints were so painful. I was hunched over like an 80-year-old woman. I was in constant pain. I was miserable. And I had to stop working completely by 1999. In 2002, my doctors told me that my heart was failing and that I could die at any time. And I was terrified. And I basically curled up in a ball of depression and waited to die. And then I got a chance to meet with a Tibetan Buddhist Lama for advice. And I hobbled up to the Lama's house and I made a pitiful bow and I poured out my tale of woe and I waited for him to shower me with much deserved sympathy. And that's when I learned that Lamas don't do dramas. Instead, he gave me a cosmic bitch slap and he told me to stop feeling sorry for myself and start thinking about the happiness of other people. And I was shocked and I was offended and I was defensive. How could I help anybody else when I couldn't even take care of myself? But he insisted. So on the way home, an ambulance went flying by with a siren blaring, and I said a quick wish for the person inside that they would find help and healing. And I thought, well, that's easy. I can do things like that. So I would let the drivers go ahead of me in line, cut ahead of me in the traffic, and I would let the mom with the crying baby go ahead of me in line at the grocery store. And I felt a little bit happier. Well, I decided to make it a practice to do at least one act of kindness every single day. So I gave my cane to a woman who was struggling to walk. I put inspirational notes on the driver's side door at the cancer center, because who doesn't want to know from the universe? I mean, really.
Well, right.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
One day I tried to give flowers away outside the grocery store, but people thought I was Hare Krishna and nobody would take the flowers. it was so funny. People were just like, woo.
They're avoiding your kind after.
They were.
No,
They were.
They're distrusting.
Next time, try to hand out Girl Scout cookies for free. And then I think people are like, I'm in.
That would work. That would work. So, and I volunteered at the Red Cross after Hurricane Katrina, and I felt happier. And because what had happened is that I had become so consumed by my own suffering that I forgot that everybody's fighting a hard battle. And doing these acts of kindness healed my heart and opened me up to the humanity of others. And it made me feel more compassion and more gratitude. And so I reached a point where it no longer mattered whether I was sick or well or even living or dying. I was just happy. I was content.
Because you were
And
helping.
at that point, my condition went into remission all within 18 months after I started doing these acts of kindness.
Oh,
It's just amazing what the brain can do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked about this, but actually so we always kind of chat with our guests a little bit before we go on live.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were talking to CJ and you shared that story. And I took that with me and started doing that, just like a little act of kindness, and just like wishing something, like I wish something good happens to you today, just like sending that little intention to somebody. And it was, well, first of all, I want you to know that because just by telling us that story, you impacted me and made me start doing
wonderful.
that. Yeah. But second of all, it just like makes you feel better. It's like instead of inward focus, it's outward focus on what can I do? How can I serve? How can I help?
And Jenny, you made a good point. It doesn't have to be stuff. It can just be that mental note, that mental wish, or CJ, like you said, that person in that ambulance. Like, I think just thinking kind things or thinking kind acts upon others then just starts to build that happiness within inside.
It produces mood boosting serotonin and pain killing endorphins. So literally it heals your body and your heart.
Yeah. And you're proof.
Yeah.
You're proof.
Even just look it up.
Yeah. But I do think if every single person could just do that one kind act or that one kind thought every day, not only would it help them, but who knows, those vibes from the universe could help so many people.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you hear those stories where group prayer, like what group prayer can do.
Yes. Yeah. Having that attitude has saved me from the darkness because it's very easy. Having a degree in human violence, I studied interpersonal violence, domestic violence, rape, sexual abuse, child abuse, and to institutional violence, war and terrorism and moral injury. And it's very dark stuff. It's very dark stuff. And when I had those grandbabies, that's where I went. I went to the darkness because I was so terrified something would happen to them. And I knew I couldn't live like that. You can't sustain that kind of thinking and be a happy person, have a happy life. And so focusing on the happiness of others literally changed my life. It saved my life, and it keeps me from going into the darkness. And knowing that I'm doing this work, writing these books and doing this online course that's going to empower kids and help keep them safe. I mean, I'll never know the lives that I save or the lives that I'll impact, but I know it's there.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think you just made a great point. Like you'll never know, but you are, right. And I think that goes for, social media too. Everybody scrolls through Instagram, everybody scrolls through things, but they're not commenting, they're not liking, but so many more people are seeing what you're putting out there than you'll ever even know. And I think with you and your books and, everything you're doing and just being on podcasts and getting your voice out, I mean, you're being heard by so many people whose lives you're changing,
It feels really good. It feels really good.
Yeah, as it should.
You have a purpose in your life.
Yes.
So
do you have on Instagram, do you share like tips and stuff like that? Like
I haven't done much on Instagram yet. I'm on Facebook more than I'm on Instagram, but I'm really focused on getting this book out and the online course, and then I'll be able to focus more on actual content online. But yes, I'll be doing a lot of tips and things like that.
And CJ, do you do any like actual in-person seminars, or is that something you've ever done before? Like
one of the things I'm going to be offering is one-on-one days with me, where I will come and teach the Fight Like a Rabid Tasmanian Devil, my Taz moves to the kids. I'll have the conversation with the kids, the body safety conversation. It's like a party, but not for a birthday or something like that. You don't have a birthday party where I come in and talk about sex abuse.
Right.
That'd be weird. Happy birthday.
Interesting party. That's what parents would be like.
I know, exactly.
But I teach kids how to fight like a
schools
rabbit,
with
Tasmanian devil, basically without knowing any self-defense or martial form of self-defense or martial arts moves. Kids can just use their bodily weapons to protect themselves. So I'm going to have these days with me where I will come to your home and with a group of kids, I'll fly across the country if you want me to, and I'll teach them what they need to know.
And what's that age range that you would do that for?
Probably 5 to 18.
Okay. So yeah, just covering the
Do
whole.
schools ever bring you in? Because
I have not. I've not pursued that yet, but that's another thing that I'm going to be doing. And my online course will also be targeting towards schools.
Perfect.
Well, I think you need to duplicate yourself because that's a lot of stuff. We need lots of CJs to be out there, and I'm sure there's many others out there really being advocate and doing their thing. With all that going on, how do you take a break? Like you are a busy woman. How do you step away? Yeah. What are some like joys? Obviously spending time with your grandchildren, but let's talk about you. What do you do for you that's like your escape? Like you're like, I am so excited to go, like kind of just,
That's where I struggle. Yeah. I'm a workaholic. I'm an unapologetic workaholic. I love it. I love working 10 hour, 20-hour days, 10 hour, 12 hour, 14-hour days. Sometimes I can't sleep. I'll get up and just work all night, work through the morning, and work all day. I just love it, but it's not good for me.
Right.
And so I try to make myself meditate every day for at least 20 minutes. I love to crochet. So in the evenings, I'll try to turn the TV off and just do something.
Go for it, yeah.
And I love to read. And I have to discipline myself to not just read nonfiction, but to read fiction as well. I used to be a nonfiction snob and think, well, I just, I don't know. But then my friend turned me on to real literature, to public, like the Pulitzer Prize winning novels and stuff like that. And it's like, this is good. And it takes my mind off things. So
kind of an escape for you. It
is an escape for me. But the truth is I need better work-life balance. I need better harmony in my life.
But, I can see when you are so passionate and you're so excited about what you're doing every day to change the world, it really is hard. And this comparison is obviously different, but we were talking about with another guest the other day about rest days for exercise, like how for some people, it's very hard for them to like take a day where they just aren't moving their body or they're not just giving themselves that time to refresh and renew. And the same, I think, can be said for throwing yourself so much into your work that it's really hard because you love it so much that but you know how good it is for you to take that day or those couple hours to disconnect and refresh. So it happens, I think, in all kind of, when you're so passionate about anything, taking a break from it, right? But we all know how good that is. So it is a hard balancing.
Because I'm so consumed, and that's not healthy. It's not healthy, and I know that. And so I know I need to make a change. It's just a matter of figuring out how to make that shift, because I don't like to watch TV much, and I don't have a lot of hobbies and things like that. Yeah. So it's hard to let go of something that I am that passionate about to do something that I feel is frivolous. And
I see a dance class for you. I think we need to
dance class for me.
Well, then we just see Nakoa bought some like tap shoes and went tap dancing or something I saw recently.
Yes, actually,
I loved it.
The crazy thing is I've been looking for a tap class, which I know sounds insane, but several years ago, I was like, all of a sudden wanted to have tap shoes, and I dressed up as this costume that required tap shoes just so I could buy the tap shoes. And so I was like, now I have to use them. So I've been looking for a tap class. And so then she posted that, and I'm like, of course you're tap dancing. Like, I need one here. I need a class here.
I was a disco queen in the 70s, a literal disco queen. I had the t-shirt, won the contest, the whole.
Oh my gosh.
But I haven't danced in ages.
But maybe it's time, right? So I mean, we were just talking about too, like just getting out there and just trying something new that's out of your comfort zone. That you might have to, like Nakoa did, stand in the back of the class and kind of just follow along. But you're out there and you're doing it, and maybe you don't love it, but at the end of it, you just feel refreshed and you're like, all right, maybe that wasn't my thing, but I tried it, and maybe I'm going to go try something new next time.
Yes. But I will say that the time with my grandkids is the most restorative time I ever get, because I become so zen. I become so present. I mean, hyper present with these children. I mean, we all seek to be in the present moment, but when I'm with them, I am like right there. And it's
appreciating
play.
it fills my heart, my soul, and it replenishes everything. By the time I leave their house, my battery is full again.
Yeah, mine's exhausted sometimes after.
Oh,
See, that's the difference, Mom and Grandma.
Suck it out of you. Your kids suck it out of you, and your grandchildren replenish it.
Right.
So
refill.
that's the biggest difference.
Right. Oh my gosh.
I love it. That's fabulous.
So if you could, I think sum up, what is some of your just best advice? I mean, we talk about this and sometimes it's hard. It could be as a mom, as a friend, as a woman, to just, people out there. What's some good advice to just, I think life advice, because you've just gone through so much.
Well, this is very hypocritical of me to say this after we just had the conversation about how I can't stop working. But there's a lot of women feel that if they do anything for themselves, if they take a break, if they're not always doing for other people, that they're being selfish. And I want to give them a new word, and that's self-full.
Yeah.
When you do things for yourself, it's called self-fullness. And it's a way of filling your own well. It's a way of replenishing yourself. It's a way of rewarding yourself. We do so much for others, and it causes resentment. It causes stress. It causes burnout. And so we have to stop. I'm telling this to myself as I'm going to take my own advice. I swear to God, I'm taking my own advice. That selffulness is just a gift you give to yourself because you are a divine being and you are worthy of it. The other thing is that a lot of women loathe themselves, hate themselves. I did for most of my life. I thought there was something inherently wrong with me that made good people do bad things. That's how much I hated myself. Mm-hmm. And coming to love myself as much as I do now, I mean, I'm obnoxious about it. I just think I'm the bomb. I'm not in a way, but I'm better than anybody else way, but I am a divine being, and I am just as awesome as anybody else out there.
Yeah.
And it has changed my life. There's no more critical self-talk going on in my head. I don't batter myself. I mean, we let ourselves say things in our own mind that we would never tolerate from another person. And what mothers, especially, because we have other mothers telling us that we're doing it wrong all the time.
Yeah.
Especially online.
Well, right. That adds to it, right?
You post something about your kid online that you think is cute, and suddenly you've got trolls telling you that your kid should be summarily shot. It's just ridiculous. So between the selffulness and the self-love, therein lies real happiness.
How did you get there? How did you get to the point where you went from hating yourself to loving yourself and no more critical thoughts and all that kind of stuff? What took you through that?
A lot of it was radical forgiveness for myself, because I felt like I had done these things wrong. I made tragic mistakes and thoughtless mistakes, and I've done things to hurt other people. Everybody has. But I thought they were unforgivable. And when I would over and over, I mean, I've done it dozens of times where I would run through my life and say, wow, I did this to that boyfriend, and I did this to my son, and I did this to my mother, and forgave myself every time. And I had to do it, just over and over again before it finally started to sink in. I forgive myself. I love myself. And saying that to myself started to heal those wounds. Because when you wound somebody else, you're wounding yourself at the same time.
Right. It's that confident and empowering self-talk, I think, that you're talking about, that I think more women specifically need, and moms need to give themselves of, like, you are awesome. You are amazing. Yes. You are wonderful, and you're doing great, because that's what builds them up. And the best person to build yourself up at times is yourself, right?
That's exactly right. We shouldn't rely on other people to do that for us. We've got to be our own advocates, because other people are thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about us.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They're not.
And I try to tell my kids that, but honestly, do I even believe that? Right. Because I feel validated in work, or I feel validated in, did somebody like my LinkedIn post, whatever it is, right? These kids are validated by how many likes they have in TikTok and stuff like that. So we're looking outward for that approval that we should be giving ourselves.
In a similar vein, another tip is stop comparing your insides to other people's outsides. Mm-hmm. We look at their clean home they post on Facebook, which probably looks like a hoarder home when and we look at all their bright, shiny objects, and we think, oh my God, I'm comparing my messy home to their clean one, or I'm comparing my messy brain to this person who seems like they have it all together. And it harms us. They are just as fucked up as we are. They are. They are.
Yeah.
And but a lot of people forget that or don't even know that that's true. So they compare their insides to other people's outsides, and it just hurts them.
And maybe even more so, I think the people potentially that are going above and beyond to make others think that everything is so amazing and so wonderful and so great and so perfect are really the ones that are hurting the most inside.
They are. Yeah.
That takes a lot of work.
They're feeling they have worthiness issues when they do that.
Mm-hmm. So CJ, you've got your book coming up. Is there anything else that's kind of on tap or that you're working on or that you're excited about? We have just a few more minutes and I want to make sure that we don't miss anything.
No, this online course is what's consuming me right now because I'm in the process of taking a course about how to make an online course. It's an online course on online courses. And the book is ready. The book has gone to bed. It's just going to come out in the middle of January, probably. And this course, I'll do a founders round, which means I bring on people for a beta version of that. So if your listeners are interested in being the beta version, it's a steep discount on the course. And they can test it out and let me know what they don't like and what they like, and I'll tweak as needed. And then it'll come out in March for the rest of the population. So those are things I'm excited about.
And tell people how we can find you, how we can find your books. Remind us the name of the books and the course and how we can find you.
Sure. My website is cjscarlet.com, and that's Scarlet with one T, not like Ms. Scarlet, but like Miss Scarlet and Clue. Scarlet in the boardroom with a Sharpie pen. So cjscarlet.com. My email is cj@cjscarlet.com. My books are on Amazon, and they are Badass Parenting, Heroic Parenting, and the new book isn't up yet, but it'll be Raising Badass Kids. And I'm very responsive by email. If anybody wants to tell me their story or ask any questions about how to protect their kids, I will reach out to anybody who reaches out to me.
I love your responsiveness, because I think a lot of people feel that when they do reach out to somebody, they're not getting the response they need. And the fact that you're saying, hey, I'm going to get back to you, it's going to happen. I think that's good to hear.
And usually you're kind of in a panic when you're reaching out,
Yes.
You want
you want an answer. That's another problem I have, is that I'm obsessed with email.
Right.
So I'm a being in progress. I'm a Buddha in the world.
We're always working on something, right?
Yeah.
We're always working on ourselves. If we stop working on ourselves, we might as well just die, right? Exactly.
Oh, and I think you have another book in you. Llamas Don't Do Dramas.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Yes.
Mamas don't do drama.
I think it's just growing.
Oh, that's great.
I am writing that down. New book.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today. This was amazing. I feel like we could have you on for another hour and not even scratch the surface. So we may be calling you back.
Yeah, I'd love to come on and just talk about the lady part sometimes.
Oh, I know, right?
Yeah, we should do it. I think we should.
Thank you so much, Lori and Jenny. I really appreciate it.
Oh, have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks for listening, friends. And until next time, keep being you and keep being badass.